the land and acknowledge the Aboriginal people, the owners of this land, and pay my respects to the elders past and present and future. It's a great pleasure to speak here on International Women's Day. I have had the privilege of visiting Israel, Palestine 9 times over the last 20 years. I'm a secular Jew. I've been engaged in this whole issue of trying to work for a just solution. I do this as a Jew for my secular Jewish values of social justice and inclusiveness, and so I'm hoping to share a little of my experiences with you today. And particularly, the last time I went a year ago was for 3 months, so that was a more in-depth kind of an experience. It's a bit blurry, but it's just to give you a general idea. You can see Israel there, the purple country. The white patch in the middle is the West Bank. And just to remind us of a bit of history, Israel was established as a result of the British sponsoring the Zionist movement and saying to the Zionists in a letter, the famous Balfour letter, that the British government views with favour the establishment of a homeland for the Jews in Palestine. And provided it does not in any way disadvantage the local people. Have I just pressed something or done something? Okay, thank you very much. Okay. And so in 1948, the state was established by resolution of the UN, but in very much opposed by the Arab states, and there was no referendum of the people themselves on the land. And in 1967, there was a 6-day war, when Israel was able to conquer right through to the River Jordan, which you can see on the edge of the yellow part of the Jordan, and you can't see Gaza, it's just a little finger that had been ruled by Egypt. Right, now let's see. Okay. Now just reminding ourselves that under the Oslo Agreement, the West Bank was divided into 3 parts. I'll talk a bit more about it later, but I thought maybe talk a little about the general situation there, that on the ground at the moment it's very bad indeed, but there are hope signs as well, that in terms of the realities there, it's not good at all. For example, a big barrier to any kind of resolution is the fact that there are over 500,000 Jewish invaders. I call them invaders because they're there illegally under international law, in so-called settlements, I call them colonies, in the West Bank, that have taken the land of the Palestinians, and they dominate that land. There are issues of inequity of shares of water. For example, in Gaza, which is under siege by the Israelis, 90% of the water is not drinkable. It's not proper water. And when we heard from a doctor from Gaza a year or so ago, she said that many of the children have kidney disease because the water is such poor quality. And this is because they have had to take water from the aquifer underneath the ground, which have been used by the local Israelis around them as well. And there just isn't enough water because they're not on the regular supply. And sort of overall, 80% of the water from the River Jordan to the Mediterranean is allocated to the Israelis, and only 20% for the Palestinians in the same area. Okay. A big issue is the question of checkpoints, and these are supposedly for security, but of course with if the question of the settlements are dotted right through the land, and as you can see, those black squares, the checkpoints are not just on the border, the recognised borders of Israel, but are right through, and they're there to protect those illegal invasion settlements. Another aspect is the wall that is built between the so-called for security for the Israelis, but in fact, if it were on the recognised ceasefire line, it wouldn't be a problem, but it has gobbled up a lot of the land. And when you go into the West Bank, there are everywhere there's the fences and the freedom of movement of the Palestinians is not there because of these checkpoints. They can't move, they can't go. This has an impact on their education, this has an impact on their ability to have an economic activity. It is very much constricting their life, and so you'll see regularly these signs on the fences: mortal danger, military zone. Any person who passes or damages the fence endangers his life. And this is the reality of what occupation is. And I told you about the issue of water. This is a water park in one of those colonies on the West Bank, where it is how the Jewish invaders take much more water than is their share. They take it from the Palestinians. And these settlements are constantly encroaching on the land of the Palestinians. And this tower here shows on the farm where I was picking olives with the Joint Advocacy Initiative of the YW and YMCA, and we'd go picking olives with the local farmers as a form of protection, a protective accompaniment it is called, to help them and stop them being harassed either by settlers who are all armed or by the army. And so they're constantly seeing the Jewish encroachment on their land. And just today, the Prime Minister Netanyahu has announced that the Jewish settlement will continue. The Jewish takeover of land will continue. This is a camp of the Bedouin people. They are Palestinians, but they have a distinctive lifestyle. They're not nomadic. They are much more settled and have been for many decades. This is near Jerusalem, and frequently they're in what are called unrecognized villages, which means they're not recognized for the purposes of having water, having a road, having electricity. So that means they have to pay for water to be carted in, they have to pay for oil to generate electricity, and they live in a very reduced circumstances. And right now, in the Negev desert, which is in Israel proper, there's a proposal to move 10,000 of the Bedouin off their land, and then move Jews onto that land. And though the Bedouin form 14% of the population in the Negev desert, they have only 0.9% of the land. So the injustice is very deep and the inequality is very deep. Now this is a point in one of the farms where we've picked with a farmer where the army has built this fence so that they cannot go on and off their land on that side of their land unless the Israelis permit them to do so. And what happened when we were there that day, some of us had gone through the gate, and half a dozen of us, and then the army closed the gate, and so we were there, and that's me there looking through the gate, and it took 1.5 hours to get that gate open. Again, this is the absolute kind of control that is involved in occupation. But it's not, there are lots of positive things, and I'd like to share that with you. This is in the village of Hares, and Israeli women come and work with the Palestinian women of this village to share with them their skills and offer classes as requested by the Palestinian women there. And so there's the computer skills or English language, anything that they feel that they need for themselves. Now, one of the issues was I worked with the International Women's Peace Service. I stayed for a month in the village, which was a very special experience. We were very welcomed there. They very much respected the work that the International Women's Peace Service does in solidarity and demonstrations, in picking the olives with them and so on. Now here we were called this day to demolition of 2 houses that were threatened with demolition. And so we rushed in the taxi and we went over there to Hares. And we saw all the people running. They didn't have anything, no weapon, nothing. They just wanted to, in some way, confront what was going to happen to them. And these houses were going to be demolished. Now the question was that houses will be demolished because they are built without a permit. And 94% of applications before a permit are rejected by the Israeli authorities, so that they build without the permit, and this makes them liable always to have their homes destroyed. And as you can see here, there's Caterpillar, the front bulldozer in the background, there's the Hyundai bulldozer, and that's why there's this call for boycott, divestment and sanctions, so that firms like Caterpillar and Hyundai can feel if there's a threat of divestment of funds from them, that this will put pressure on them not to support the destruction of people's homes and the occupation in this way. And at this time, when we came to this village, we were attacked with tear gas. Here is a man in his doorway, very sick from and overcome with tear gas. I don't know if any of you have seen the film Five Broken Cameras, which really portrays the popular struggle of the Palestinians, which is a really important thing that we don't hear about in our media hardly at all. But this film shows this grassroots struggle, and it's not only in the one village, the villages right across the West Bank, every week confronting the army non-violently, but too often, and again, the Amnesty report just released, some of you may have seen about it, of the destruction and the murders committed by the Israeli Defense Force. The Middle East Director of Amnesty International said, this report, that's the Amnesty report, presents a body of evidence that shows a harrowing pattern of unlawful killings and unwarranted injuries of Palestinian civilians by Israeli forces in the West Bank. The frequency and persistence of arbitrary and abusive force against peaceful protesters in the West Bank by Israeli soldiers and police officers, and the impunity enjoyed by the perpetrators suggests that it is carried out as a matter of policy. And again, some of you may have seen the excellent Four Corners program 3 weeks ago, yes. Stone Cold Justice, about the way children are seized and children are used. They try and use them as collaborators and informers against their own families. And so we get somehow now slowly some of this truth is seeping out, and because we've been denied it, not been in our media. And so these are the realities, and these are the realities that people like myself have witnessed. And there is one of those houses demolished the next day. And there is a selection of the tear gas and other missiles that were collected by the young men after the day after we had demonstrated that day. This would be just an ordinary day in the village in terms of their popular struggle every week. Now this is a picture that I didn't take, but it was taken in the village I visited, Nabi Salah, which is another village that has a strong struggle, and there's only 550 people there, just 550 people. And again, they chronically, the non-violent resistance. The young boys do throw stones, that is true. But if you look at this picture, it seems to me to represent, it's an icon of the struggle. It shows the Israelis with their this guy's armed to the teeth, and here's this child, she's 8 or 9, with little sleeveless singlet, and just only her human spirit that she challenged him with. And this is what the Palestinians are doing with their non-violent demonstrations, and they're really needing our solidarity. That's their affirmation that they will not cooperate with this occupation. They will resist. They will be true to their own human spirit. And Nabi Salah is one of the villages that, with the International Women's Peace Service, we would demonstrate regularly. And so we went one time when I was there, and again the tear gas and everything else. And we had finished going to the demonstration. We'd sort of leaving and going up the hill, going into the shop at the petrol station, and suddenly I felt this sharp ping on the side of my leg. And in fact, I thought it must be one of the stones from the young men, the Shabbat. That in fact was a rubber bullet. And this is the rubber bullet beside an orange, to give you a sense of the size of a grape. And that's what it did. It was obviously on ricochet or at the end of its trajectory, so it wasn't a direct hit. But and this is normal in relation to the demonstrations. And about 3 weeks later, we were due to demonstrate, and this was the time when Israel had again attacked Gaza. And I was of the view that the Israelis would be very much